December 28th, 2023, meeting of the Bellingham Planning Board. This is a continued public hearing of the Next Grid Master Plan LLC Parcel 1 hearing. Do you want, is Attorney Brown here?
Yeah, he said he had to go grab some of his notes from his car.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But
Would you
we
like to
are,
bring us up to speed on where we are?
yeah, sure. So, we received a decision from this board. We have reviewed it. Attorney Brown does have some comments. I believe we responded to your comments. We can go through some of them. For me, the only one that I really want to
Yeah,
discuss.
we just wait until Attorney Brown. Because we have not voted on a decision yet this evening.
I understand.
That's a draft copy.
Yep.
And before we do that, I'd like to take attendance. Starting with Rob.
Robert Lucier is present. Brian Feldberg present.
Bill O'Connell present.
Bill Line here.
Nick Mobilia present.
Dennis?
Dennis Trevino present.
Okay. Feel free to continue.
I was just introducing the draft decision and what we thought of it. Pick it up.
Okay, I would like to start, but we have reviewed the draft decision. We provided some general comments.
Yep,
And
much appreciated.
you can answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Okay,
I think the last we left it was I had sent an email correspondence. I don't know if the board has seen it or not. This morning with just notes as to 4 provisions, and I can go through those if you'd like.
I'm sorry, what?
I had notes as to 4 of the conditions,
That's, that's fine.
if you'd like to do it that way or however you'd like to proceed.
No,
I haven't seen any comments, so if you have any questions on what you received from me, I can try to answer them, but I
Okay.
have not seen them.
we got these today.
Oh, that's fine, I just, nothing came.
What I'd like to do before we,
I don't think, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I don't think those were distributed. The 4 o'clock, if they were, was there an email that was sent earlier today?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think I.
it was in the drop down boxes.
Okay, I saw 3 documents there. I saw an agenda, I saw the decision, and I saw a letter from, or it was a. Are we talking about the fire equipment? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I could do this verbally.
Okay,
This was-
so I haven't seen it either.
I
That's my point.
think, and I want to put words in, I think you're gonna talk about page 5, paragraph 7A,
Correct,
page 7, paragraph 11.
correct.
Okay. They was come out late this afternoon.
That's fine. So I could do this verbally if you'd like.
That'd be appreciated.
Okay. Copy the draft decision. Well, the first was actually that we didn't have any comments. There were some additions from the draft number 2 from draft
Okay.
number 1,
Yeah.
and we didn't have any comments to that addition.
Yep,
The next is page 7, paragraph 11. And we have 2 comments here. So the condition, I'll just read it out loud for everybody, says the applicant shall discontinue the use of the gravel way to pass and repass at 186 Maple Street to access 160 Maple Street, including parcel 1, 2, and 3. I think it might have meant to have said including 4, parcel 1, 2, and 3, is how I read it. But we have 2 comments to this.
yep,
Number 1, we have a suggestion that the board just add at the end, comma, except for emergency access. We would assume that the town would want as many emergency access points as possible, even though that's not part of the plan, but that's up to the board.
yep,
The second I would ask is that we strike parcel 3, that we all worked very hard to keep these petitions separate. I think here, if you want the condition as to parcel 3, it would be a condition in the parcel 3 decision. So here, this is really talking about, as I understand it, we have the Kirk Golf Course.
Yep.
The owner has, no, we conveying all their property rights, an access easement over 186 Maple to go to the maintenance shed, which you've seen on the plans is called as the maintenance shed easement. That is not part of any access that we're utilizing for this project, is delineated in all of our plans, and we've talked about it at the meeting.
Okay,
So there's been a request that we, as a condition, discontinue the access, which is not part of the plan, so no issue there. I think, I may be incorrect, I think the board, with respect to parcel 2, is seeking some added protection that in the event that we get some traction, either in Franklin or Bellingham, with respect to that potential recreational area in parcel 2, that will be able to come back before the board. I think you already have that. We have no issue with that. So including parcel 1 and parcel number 2, no issue here. I
Okay.
think you're probably going to condition parcel 3 when we go and issue that decision. So I would simply ask, one, that you add, accept emergency access,
Yep.
except for emergency access, and then end it at parcel 1, 2, and deal with parcel 3 on its separate, petition.
we can talk about, but that's fine. What,
Okay.
I want to have the board chime in.
Sure. Page 8 and 9, paragraph 21. This just references, this was an addition, with respect to the donation letter that, Next Grid has submitted. That's referenced now in the decision dated December 28th. I have copies if any members of the board needs that.
Yep,
But our just suggestion was that at the end of the paragraph, it would just say, as referenced in Next Grid's December 28th, 2023 letter to the board, which is part of the record in there. So that was the donation that the company is offering to make to the town and wishes to be a participatory and voluntary contributory member of the community.
okay,
So I think that gives that proper context and will be helpful.
yep,
And then the last comment that we had was page 9, paragraph 22.
Yep.
And I'll just read this and then make our points. It says, as agreed to by the applicant shall name the town of Bellingham to be listed as an additional named insured ATIMA on the decommissioning bond issued to the town of Franklin, or provide the planning board with a separate decommissioning bond in a form acceptable to the planning board.
okay.
And so,
I know where you're going.
so we've talked about this a bit. We have no issue with having the town named as additional insured. Mr. Serber mentioned that in previous meetings. We do have a problem with that second part, which appears to be an alternative that's available to the applicant. We cannot have 2 decommissioning bonds on the same project. Also here, the way anybody would view it, there's nothing to decommission in Bellingham. The actual apparatuses are all exclusively situated in Franklin. We can provide, and I think Mr. Serber has talked about this in previous meetings, can provide a landscaping bond or something to that effect. So that's kind of the context of our issue there. So we would simply ask, and we have 1 of 2 suggested languages for addressing this issue. Number 1 would be, the provision would simply end after listing town of Bellingham as an additional named insured. That's proposal number 1. Or another option would be after the town of Franklin saying, or provide the planning board with a separate landscaping bond in a form acceptable to the planning board.
Okay,
So those are our 2 suggestions and the reasons why. Other than that, we have reviewed the decision and are satisfied with its contents and appreciate the efforts of the planning department and this board.
okay.
Mr. Serber, do you have anything you want to add? I think
Ask the board members any questions they want to have.
I have no questions.
I do have a couple.
Would I like
So-
to, go ahead.
So first. So as far as some of these comments that were made, number 11, this is speaking as one member here.
Yep,
I have no problem adding the emergency access vehicles. I do prefer keeping parcels 1, 2, and 3. And I'll comment on that as we go forward with some of my concerns.
all right,
With these plans. So again, number 11, I would be, one member is okay with the access for emergencies, but I'd like to keep parcels 1, 2, and 3, and then.
okay,
That's one piece of it.
yep,
The next one. And. I'm trying to keep these in the same order.
mhm,
As far as number 21 was concerned, I have no problem adding this date. This is one member speaking, adding the date of the letter of the offer. I would be hesitant on number 21 to, I would want to remove, one member wants to remove to all situations. I don't know if town council would want to look at that, but number 21 to all situations, that language seems like it's a risk to us.
are you talking about the letter on the 28th?
Yeah, as it's written right now, number 21, which it does refer to the letter. I have no problem adding the date of the letter onto that as part of this and tying that to this agreement. But the language of the rest of the sentences, I would want to remove to all situations. To me, that it feels like we're taking on liability there, and I don't know whether you disagree with that or not, but
I mean,
may I ask town council a question?
Yes,
so just to be clear, I haven't seen the letter and I haven't seen this version of the decision. But just looking at this now, so I'm limited in what I can help you with. I see your point at all. I mean, I think it would be fine if it just says we'll be responding. But I don't know what the letter says when it says we'll be responding as referenced.
what I like to do now,
Okay,
I like, so we're all on the same page. If you'd like to, read into the record, the letter from December 28th.
Thank you.
Want to do that?
I'm sorry?
Would you like me to do that?
Oh, he can do it, you can do it.
I'll let you do it.
Okay, it's on next week letterhead, stated December 28th. It's addressed in town of Bellingham to Amy Sutherland. And it's dear Miss Sutherland, Next Grid Inc. is pleased to offer a donation to the town of Bellingham Fire Department and or Police Department for its equipment and resource needs. Next Grid will donate a total of $50,000. A sum of $25,000 will be donated upon the issuance of a building permit for parcel 1. The sum of $25,000 will be donated upon the issuance of a building permit for parcel 3. Next Grid looks forward to being a part of and contributing to the community betterment of the town of Bellingham. Signed, Daniel Serber, Senior Director of Land Development, Next Grid Inc.
So I think maybe just, and again, I just got this, so I'm not really in a position to advise other than the wording. But I think it's more just a wording thing, because the way it's written now, it makes it sound like as referenced in the letter is modifying the preceding sentence, which is talking about responding, which the letter doesn't talk about doing. So I think you could maybe say, just move it like to the front and say, as reference, like make that as reference in Next Grid's December
Yeah.
2023 letter to the board, the first part of the sentence, right? So it would start with as reference in Next Grid's December 28th, 23 letter to the board. The applicant will work with the Bellingham Fire Department, and then you could cross out, and you could just have it end with, since the town of Bellingham will be responding, period. So you could cross out to all situations, and you could just move that last phrase to the beginning, and I think the modifying text will read the intent better as far as, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so. I don't know whether we've got agreement on that one. How do you want to handle that? Do we need a motion individually?
So I'd like to make a comment on the letter itself. I just saw this letter this afternoon late as well. And I did have a quick conversation with Amy. The way it's worded, for, as far as the timing goes, I think we'd have to reword that. So parcel 1 doesn't require a building permit. First of all, it's a site plan. Okay, so we'd have to just reword that, maybe put it to after the use variance is issued or the water permit is issued, because there's no structure, there's no building permit for parcel one.
This may be prior to construction of, prior to
Right,
beginning.
Yeah,
work or
we
something.
could,
You need it.
just has to be reworded.
That-
you know?
yeah, so-
Yeah,
Okay.
So maybe that where it says,
So I
Instead of
think what's
saying-
gonna happen, since there's no building permit, it may be more electrical.
I could do it, so we could condition it on, you know, the electrical connection, or the water connection, or the site, starting of the site, preparation,
totally your call.
yeah, you know.
As long as it's after the approval and before earthwork,
Right, I think probably prior to earthwork, for parcel one, you know, the 25,000.
So can you guys just send an updated, still December 28th letter that makes that change?
Yep.
Yep.
If that works for you.
Thank you. It's good comment.
How do we feel about that? Nick, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, I have no questions, but
Okay, what's, any other comments?
Yeah, I do have some more comments. So going back. And. Do we have, is Tina taking notes on this so that we motion to?
Yes, Tina is on.
Tina's there.
Okay, so going back,
And Tina, if we talk too fast, let us know. Especially me, I tend to talk fast.
You know,
all right, number 6.
Paragraph 6.
Yeah, number 6 on page 4. So my understanding is the applicant is not asking for any waivers whatsoever. Is that correct?
We haven't applied for.
You have not applied for a waiver, is my understanding. So at this point, what I would like to do is remove or a waiver has been requested and granted, because if you're not requesting any waiver, I'm not looking to add that phrasing in this.
Oh, sorry.
Number 6, the first.
That was at number 6 on page 7. Thank you.
Page 7, not 4 on mine.
Yeah.
On both.
that's 6 in the findings, and then there's
Yeah.
6 in the conditions, so you're in the.
So this is page 4,
4 of 10.
number 6.
scratch after.
The last phrase in that first sentence is or a waiver has been requested and granted. If you're not asking for a waiver, we don't want to indicate that we've, given you a waiver on any of this stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so you're agreeing to that? Does anybody on the board have an issue with that?
No.
So the sentence would add that have been met.
Have been met, period. Does that sound fair?
Yep.
Okay. The next piece is my understanding was you guys were gonna provide a rendering of the area with the driveway, because, with it being a scenic road, the question was that, is there, there was gonna be a rendering. I know there was a drawing with telephone poles and all that, but I know you're building a little road in there to put a car could park there on the entrance and all that with the telephone poles. Was there a rendering that you guys were gonna present?
You guys had asked for a rendering on parcel
The-
3.
the
and then on
entrance.
parcel 1, we did a site walk. We showed we couldn't see the system from the road, and there was just gonna be a telephone pole and 2 telephone poles and a small equipment pad, and we did not provide a rendering.
But at a subsequent meeting, we discussed the fact of showing a rendering of what you anticipated it would look like. Because at one point, we thought about maintaining it, the 2 holes as they were. We realized that wasn't viable. So we were told we'd have a rendering of what it would look like with the gates closed and down the road. I guess you're gonna do some natural grasses or natural plantings there.
Greg, or we have Greg from Devona from Bowler on I don't know.
And maybe I can clarify where I'm going with this
Sure.
too, and it might help, is that, 6H on page 4, basically says, no removal of vegetation or stone walls are proposed in the public right of way. So Is there, is there any stone walls that you're gonna be touching and you're fine with that, the way it's phrased right now? So there's no, you're not removing any vegetation. And you're not moving any stone walls
In the public right of way,
in the public right of way, which sounds like vegetation you might be moving.
so. We have no control over what Eversource does when they install this equipment, and they might cut back for public safety, some vegetation that would spark a fire like they do for any public right of way electrical installation they do anywhere in the state. We are not proposing any cutting of vegetation, and we don't think Eversource will, but we can't control them. No matter how much we try.
As this is a plan that we're approving and it's in there and we're agreeing to this. And so therefore, based on that language, if it stayed there, you are agreeing to that.
So doesn't Eversource come to get their permits for when they do?
So is there a design, is there an engineered design yet from Eversource?
So let's, Greg, can you jump in on this?
Yeah, what I can just clarify is that the plans that were submitted do show the landscape improvements. They do show the new poles, everything within the entranceway. That's included on it was sheet I just want to get the number right. I want to say it was sheet C106, but let me just verify that. And based on those plans, we don't show any disturbance or tree clearing or disturbance of any of the stone walls within the right of way. So nothing on our plans call for that disturbance.
Okay, so then therefore you're agreeing to it then. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. It's
And we have no problem changing it. I just want to make sure that that's,
I think you're referring to one of the meetings, someone mentioned having to widen the driveway, I think. Is that what
Yeah.
is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
Yeah. I think at one of the meetings, it was mentioned.
yep.
That's right. And we did supply revised plans, including the truck turn movements that showed that
All right,
emergency vehicles can come in and out with that existing access drive without requiring any widening.
and also you mentioned cutting an area down, I think 20 feet by 20 feet, fairly close to Maple Street.
Parcel 3.
That's relating to the other application, and that was the other presentation that we had for parcel 3 for
Yeah,
the
we could
southern.
not put that across.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, my next comment, you mentioned potential deals with Franklin. You have, as far as you mentioned that in your startup, do you have actual deals with?
No.
No.
No, so nothing has changed from the very first.
I understand.
So lot 2, you're basically, before you stated that there was gonna be no recreation area in Franklin that would need Bellingham access. Is that still the case?
No, so nothing has changed from the beginning when we've talked about this multiple times.
I
So
understand.
let me rephrase that question.
Well,
Is there a deal that you have with Franklin?
No.
No, okay, so the next thing I'm gonna bring on, your answer was no.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
but I want to make sure everything's clear, because,
Please elaborate.
please, thank you. When we went through Franklin North parcel, and I've said this multiple times before the board, we talked about the possibility of doing two things. One was in our control, one was not within our control, and would need others' input and permission, including but not limited to the town of Bellingham. One thing that was in our control and we promised and agreed to with Franklin is that we would not extend the solar array into parcel 2, but we would preserve that area. That was one thing, and it was incorporated into our decision. The second thing that we talked about is said, oh, if we're not going to be utilizing this parcel 2, might be a nice thing for both Franklin and Bellingham to have potentially a recreational area that could go and be utilized. It would require permissions and approvals from an abutting property owner, as well as the abutting town in the town of Bellingham. So that is an idea that has been raised. We've been asked by town of Franklin, as incorporated in our decision, which everyone has seen and read, to try and utilize good faith efforts to try and do that. And we've talked about it several times in Bellingham, that could only happen upon request and approval to Bellingham. There has been zero that has happened since my last meeting with Franklin, which was many, many months ago. And before I last communicated with the board, based on my understanding of where the board currently is, as well as other things around, I don't think this is going, I don't think it's going anywhere at all, but we'll go and see, and we would include the town of Bellingham, and if it's something that Bellingham wants, and it's something that Franklin wants, you'll have a cooperative partner in NextGrid to try and make it happen. If it's something that neither wants, it's done and not gonna go and happen. It's an idea and nothing more than that.
And it's
And
taking a line
it's
of potential.
potentially a good idea.
Hey, Frank, do you want, is there anything you want to?
Yeah, so my concern with parcel two is that we've not done traffic studies on that property based upon athletic fields or anything else at this point. So if there was a plan to actually bring a field there with access to Bellingham using Maple Street or other Bellingham roads, then that would be something that we would want to talk about in a traffic study. Are you saying that
There is no such plan. That's never even been an idea.
Athletic center has never been discussed, athletic ball fields have never been discussed. It literally started because someone in Franklin said this might be a nice place for a dog park. And we said, if you want to use it for that, we can look into that. And really, that's as far as the conversations have gone. And if we were gonna provide a park that would have access for the residents of Bellingham, I would be saying it to you guys that we were providing this. But I do not have control over that. You know,
so to me,
yeah.
adding traffic with ballparks and things is not something that we're investigating right now. So to me, how do we, and I'm concerned that that's the case. And let me tell you why I'm concerned with the case, because I heard you out. Okay. So in the public records for the town of Franklin, and this is right on the Franklin website, I'm assuming you've seen these decisions. There's two pieces that I'm going to bring up. Number one is the letter from the planning board chairman to the town clerk, and it's entitled Certification of Vote Site Plan North Maplegate. Okay, and on that decision, okay, I'm assuming you've seen that decision because you guys you're involved with that, right? So certification of vote, special conditions, Maplegate North, number 2, okay? And there's gonna be 2 points here, but number 2, the applicant will work with the town administrator obtaining easements to access lot 2 for public use. Okay? Number 4, the applicant shall enter into a tax agreement regarding personal property with the town of Franklin prior to the start of construction. So I'm assuming that you've seen this decision. I'm assuming that you were involved with it. The meeting notes indicate that Attorney Brown, you were there and
Yes.
present.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you wouldn't disagree with this, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. The second document I'm going to bring in is the Town of Franklin Planning Board meeting minutes, September 25th, 2023. All right, and these were the meeting notes that were actually approved by that board on December 4th. And I'm going to read the motion that was made and approved here. And there was 3 motions made that day. I'll read the first one, and it's a long one, but I'm going to read it. Okay. Motion to make the following condition to the plan for Maplegate North Solar Site Plan application. The town administrator will work with the applicant to establish a tax agreement prior to construction, comma. The surety bond will be adjusted to reflect the 2.5% escalation adjustment period, or comma, excuse me. Work with the tree warden to approximate and distribute the number of trees on the plan, comma, and provide a plan for lot 2 public access and recreation, and the applicant will work with the town to complete needed access and come back to the planning board when the appropriate time to discuss recreation opportunities. And that vote was taken on a 5-0 basis. There was another motion. The second motion was basically to close the public hearing. The third motion was to basically approve it. So to me, this tells me that there is a deal, and maybe it's a deal that needs to be worked on, but this tells me there's a deal for the exact words were public, lot 2, public access and recreation. And the applicant will work with the town on the tax deal. So
Those aren't connected.
They're totally independent.
The tax deal and that's just,
okay, so that was the one motion. Okay, so I guess my next question was, you're offering a tax deal to Franklin, and right? There's
No, we did this a few meetings ago.
Yeah.
So
September
Mr.
26th.
Dunn,
we're giving them, they're taxing our real property,
full value.
full value. I mean, that's the tax deal in lieu of a pilot. So instead of having a pilot like other solar systems have, they're just gonna tax the system.
The tax assessor actually corrected the planning board in that case and said, no, it doesn't work that way. This is how it's gonna work. We're gonna go and actually tax the full entity. There's been some changes in developments in the law. And that's why those things that were discussed in prior meetings did not go and get incorporated into the decision. And we were asked about this at a meeting a few months ago.
Yeah,
I thought, I know we've dealt with a lot, but I went through a lot of this in detail, and so respectfully, Mr. Bott, I disagree with your interpretation of what you read. The decision said that we would go and work with the town to try and fulfill this recreational opportunity. What's in those recorded minutes is numerous times saying, we don't have the power to deliver this to you. This is an idea that was raised, and to the extent that we can go and be helpful, we'll go and do it. What we can control is the other. We can't control the other, and at this point, I couldn't, parcel 2 is done. It's something that if the town of Franklin, and if the town of Bellingham would like, and if the owner of 186 Maple would like to go and do something, then they'll notify us, and we would come back before you with a petition for parcel 2 for you to go do whatever you like. And if you don't want it or don't want it, then there's nothing to go and discuss. And pretty much
How
what
can we condition that?
So can I just ask, just want to point out a condition that's in here that maybe you can add some language to that'll make you feel better. So if you take a look at page 9, condition 26. So right now, the condition reads, any change of use or increase in intensity of the permitted use may require a public hearing to either modify the existing permit or to issue a new permit. So 2 things in that. I think we should change that may to a shall. Because you'll have a public hearing to decide whether or not you need to make changes. And then you can specifically add something about parcel 2 here. So you can add a sentence to this that says, in the event that there is to be any use, or any new or changed use to parcel 2, the applicant shall file a new application, application or an application to modify with the board, specifically to evaluate the use of parcel 2.
Any increase of intensity is gonna require.
Yeah, but if we're concerned
So-
with parcel 2 in particular, you could certainly add, I wouldn't make any other change to this, so it would say, any change of use or increase in intensity of the permitted use shall require a public hearing, either to modify the existing permit or to issue a new permit. And you can add a sentence that says, specifically, any new or additional use of parcel 2 shall require a new application and a new public hearing.
Would you be okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, can I make that motion using her language and
So I
let's
don't-
do
I
it
don't-
right now?
I don't know how you guys normally do it. I don't know that you need specific motions for each change, and just at the end, you're gonna vote the decision with the changes, but however you normally
Okay.
do it. I don't wanna
yeah,
mess up.
potentially we can do that.
Why don't we hold that, I would, if the rest of the board is okay with that, that alleviates a lot of my issues.
Good.
Because with that, you get traffic and other types of things. And there's,
We understand the concern.
okay,
Can I just go back a couple of months ago?
go ahead.
We had a meeting about 186 Maple Street and the lack of a gate. I think you were second on the agenda. I believe you were sitting in the room. Well, it's the same night, both parties were here. And I said, you know, we've been told there's no golf course down the road. Therefore, there's no need for access through 186 Maple Street to get to parcels 1, 2, and 3. So that's why we put it in page 7, paragraph 11.
Yep.
That's also where we put it in the finding, limiting access to 186 for emergency only. So this has been in the back of my mind for a while to try to limit that. That's the reason why page 7, paragraph 11 mentions 1, 2, and 3. Now, here's the conundrum. And I may need your help here, Counselor. The December 28th letter with the granting of the $50,000 ties, at this point, you're tying it in to both parcel 1 and parcel 3, because you've referenced both parcels,
It was a parcel.
25 for 1 and 25 for 3.
Yes.
So I can live with this. But in the agreement for parcel 3, you know, don't be surprised to see similar language
I expect it.
mentioning 1, 2, and 3 specific.
Yeah, I think if it's done in the second one, it makes it from a form,
It certainly does.
from a procedural perspective, it makes more sense to me because 1 and 2 would have already been conditioned through the north. And then 3 gets conditioned on the south, to get exactly where you want to go.
I agree, but you gave me a little opening here,
Okay.
and I thought I would take it.
Oh, I get it. I think at the end of the day, what we're saying the same thing.
We are.
You,
We're getting very close.
okay, so I'm just simply trying to go and I see your point about the letter. So what I'd like to see for paragraph 11.
I'm fine with that. Is anyone else striking out, reference to 2?
You'll
I would, he was asking for striking 3.
Okay,
So
fine.
I would leave 1 and 2 in there,
Fine.
and he was striking 3.
Agreed,
That's fine.
agreed. And then we fully expect, as we get through and go through the south parcel, that you'll condition parcel 3 on that one and incorporate your prior restriction of parcel 1 and 2 through this decision.
All right.
Understood. And no issue.
Okay, well, next question I have is, having read through those meeting minutes, the bonding, it was very tight. And when I say very tight, the number of trees, the percentage of increases they were so tight that I question whether or not, if there was a problem decommissioning the poles, the wiring in Bellingham and those things, that there would be no money for it if Franklin got to it first. And that's a question I have for you, is that I don't think, I think we need to be able to, and that's a question for you, because you went through it, but the bond itself, I would want to make sure that the bond was big enough for us as well. Because it literally, I can read the meeting minute notes. They were 500 trees, it was exact. And that was the multiplying factor. And you guys were, there was a discussion on inflation rates from 1 to 2.5 and all that stuff. So it was a tight decision with that. And I guess the question I have is that if the stuff that's in Bellingham would not be covered on that bond, is my opinion. And I'm interested in your opinion on that.
Mr. Server on that.
And that's a question.
Yeah, so we're installing 2 poles
Okay,
and then we're going underground with the wires.
okay,
There's already underground wiring present, so there's already some infrastructure there. The decommissioning bond does cover the removal of overhead poles. It does not contemplate removing underground existing conduit. And then there's 2 Eversource poles, which again, we can't
With
contemplate and we
Eversource and
cannot pay
Eversource,
for,
but-
yeah.
the stuff on your property that's in Bellingham,
Correct.
that's
So-
part of this process,
So it does contemplate the removal of the poles and specifically also that transformer, the pad mounted transformer.
Okay.
So those are 100% covered in that bond.
what's not covered?
the underground conduit, I suppose, not the existing underground conduit that we're gonna be following, is not covered as part of the removal.
And I don't know if it's impactful or not, but to remove something like that in your industry, how much would that be? Is that a big dollar amount, or is that a stupid 10 cent
You
thing?
would just
I'm questioning.
trench the area and remove the PVC or the pipe.
Couple guys, couple hours,
It's just a few $100, probably
a few $100. Okay, all right, then I'm gonna
$4,000,
$4,000.
something like that.
For $4,000, I'm okay with not being first to the line, so I guess that's my last question. Okay,
I don't have any additional questions.
Dennis?
Yes, I have one. What's the setback on the fence on Maple Street? The gate?
You mean the gate?
I don't know if you can hear that.
Greg?
Can you hear that? Greg, you know what the setback is on that gate?
Yeah, let me take a quick measurement. I'll get back to you. I want to say it's roughly where the gate is at,
Yes,
it's at least 50 feet back, but let me take a measurement. Hold on a second, get the plan.
only does between 50 and 100 feet.
I don't, well, I'm only mentioning it because couple days after the storm, I was driving down Maple Street and there was a tree service company trying to get in there and the gate was shut. And the back end of that truck was sticking out of Maple Street and the stinger was overhanging the lane. That's why I was concerned.
Yeah, the gate's about 50 feet in from the property line, and the property line or the edge of the right of way is about another 20 to almost 25 feet from the edge of curb. So whatever was sticking out into the lane, that somehow was 70, 75 feet long. Or maybe it was a couple trucks.
There's a big tree truck with a big boom on it, with and they have a big stinger on the back end of them. And he was parked there waiting for somebody to open the gate. And his truck was sticking out into the lane. And the stinger was sticking out over, it's up in the air, but it was sticking out over into the lane. I had to slow down to the left to get around. That's why I was concerned, that's all. I just want to make sure that there's enough room there for apparatus to safely enter there without being on the road.
The existing gate.
That's the existing gate that you guys asked us to keep
Yeah,
intact. We have no problem moving it or keeping it. It's
okay,
We don't
I think the
50 to
board would like
75
to keep
feet
it if
is-
possible.
Yeah.
We'd like to look. It's been there for a while, we're kind of used to it. Anything else? There's one thing I just want to bring to your attention in the decision. We've not heard back from the DPW on the looping of the fire hydrants and the easements that may be required to get access to those fire hydrants.
Well, I thought he did get back to Amy about the looping. He wants a water loop.
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
Yeah,
So in 24, condition 24 does say the applicant can make improvements acceptable to the town's Department of Public
I'm
Works.
aware, I just want to
Oh,
make
okay.
sure they're aware of it.
Okay.
So that's where we will cover that.
Yeah, with respect to easement, so we submitted a stamped plan to the fire chief
Yeah,
regarding how we're getting water supply in and how all of that is working. They have all of that, and I've said they might send and look for independent review of what was provided, but we gave the pump flow and gave all of that, so it'll be subject to DPW final permit approval, but we've satisfied all of the concerns.
and it's also referenced in item number 23. With regards to utility easements.
Yep.
I just, because we want to tighten that up. I'd like to have a couple of things read into the record. Deputy Chief, do you have a copy, or do you want me to read the letter from the two chiefs?
Yeah, you can, if you want to read it, I don't have a copy.
Okay,
I can give you a copy.
you want to read it?
I don't mind reading it.
Yeah,
Or get a
yeah.
copy, that's fine. Okay.
Just so it's in the record,
All
that
right.
we reference it.
All right, so this is from the chief of police and the fire chief. And it's to the planning board. Dear planning board members, the fire chief and I are writing to express our concerns over the proposed solar farm at the Maplegate Country Club. As you know, much of the property is situated within Franklin. However, the access and street address is Maple Street in Bellingham. We have for years been the primary responder to the site as response times for police, fire, EMS from Franklin would be quite long and delayed. A search of our CAD system shows a wide variety of calls and reports at that location, including thefts, vandalism, assault, medical emergency, fire calls, among others. In none of these instances did Franklin Police or Fire Department respond, nor would we expect them to. Through long-term, the long-term, a solar farm should be a location of low calls volumes for our agencies. We are quite concerned with the impacts that will arise before and during construction, as well as the long-term security and safety of the site. Some of those impacts could be medical emergencies, worker injuries, fire, theft, vandalism, trespassing, as well as additional truck and commercial vehicles on Maple Street. Construction site, especially of this size and with electricity, are high hazard areas and require specialized and unique response. Additionally, a large and secured area such as Maplegate would present a complex security challenge. We are not opposed to the project, but wish that the board be fully aware of our responsibilities to provide emergency response and protection to the site due to the unique location and advocate for appropriate mitigation to address the impacts. Respectfully, and it was Kenneth Fitzgerald, Chief of Police, and William Miller, Fire Chief, and I believe it was in the November timeframe.
Again, I just wanted to reference that letter. I just want to make sure it's in the record. Two things I'd like to bring to your attention. And I want to be very delicate about the first one. And it appears there's been someone who has probably Zoomed our meeting or YouTubed our meeting, who businessman who's very creative. Okay. I want to be careful how I'm saying this. People on Maple Street have received letters from a company called American Water Resources, trying to sell them on insurance for repairs to their house that would not be covered under the traditional homeowners. Let me quote, you receive this letter to address you of your responsibilities in the event of an unexpected repair with your water service line. If you have not replaced your original water service line servicing your home, it may be at risk the water service line leaks or breaks. Most homeowners are not aware that they may be responsible for repair of the water service line that runs through their property. If you have a problem related to your water service, so on and so forth. What they're getting at is we've talked about the water table raising. So someone's been very creative. They've either listened to or spoken at the meeting and or gotten the resident list for Maple Street and has solicited people to try to get them to buy insurance. Okay. I know it's, obviously, I know it's not you, but I just want to bring this to your attention.
Thank
And,
you.
someone is getting very creative. And unfortunately, I just need to bring it to your attention.
Appreciate that. I don't know anything about it. But I appreciate that information.
I just want to make you aware.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And I'm sure you're disappointed, but not surprised.
Did you guys see that?
No.
Thank you. Also, I like to, in the record, we've talked about residents' concerns. I'd just like to read a couple of paragraphs about his handwritten letter. And this may be more impactful for parcel 3. Request for research of studies. Impact and other Franklin Solar Farm, construction and maintenance with only access proposed for Bellingham on Maple Street residential area. Impact on the water table as a result of the work and clear cutting of hundreds or thousands of more trees. Mature trees 6 feet and above can absorb 40 to 70 gallons of water a day while scrubbing out carbon dioxide from the air and releasing oxygen. Facts. Amazon, the first the first solar farm and mulch compost businesses clear cut thousands of trees. The water table has already risen to the point where many homes now get water in their basements after any big rain event, not just bring snow out. The DPW has agreed that the water table is higher. In the last 5 to 7 years, many Maple Street residents, including this person, had to replace town water supply lines. And sort of comes back to that letter. Caused by rusting on the supply line guts and higher water tables. Cost was approximately $3,000, including town workers' parts, labor excavation, and refill by contractor, loam and fill replacement, driveway patch and repair due to heavy equipment. Here's a question from a resident, and we're not apt to answer this. If more trees are removed and more blacktop is added, that will raise the water tables higher. Is there the possibility for more flooding? And if needed, can retention ponds or basins be put in the Franklin side to reduce the impact on Maple Street residents? I know I'm throwing this out to you tonight.
Yeah.
It's probably more applicable for parcel 3. But it'll probably be discussed in greater detail.
Yes, what's the date on that letter? Because we got a similar comment, last month by someone that was actually here. Just want to know if it's,
I don't have a date on it, and we've given a synopsis of it.
yeah, so, one, we're not adding new blacktop.
Okay,
We're not removing thousands of trees either.
okay,
We're creating a meadow. We will be still having lots of plant life under the panels themselves.
yep,
We don't think this is gonna have any impact on the groundwater levels, and Mr. DeBona is on, and he's designed the stormwater system with basins and all the mitigation that's required by, Mass DEP and what would be required locally as well. And he can go into all kinds of detail
Okay.
If you'd like him to.
would you like to do that tonight? And you may repeat yourself at the next meeting.
Maybe better for when we come back from.
I would like to repeat it at parcel 3, because the impact on parcel 3 is more consistent than the impact on parcel 1. So now I'd like to open it to the general public. Anyone have anything they want to add? Deputy Chief?
I'm good right now. All set right now.
Okay.
Can I just make a suggestion, just because there's been discussion tonight of changes, and I don't know at this point what the timeline is for getting this finalized and filed. 'Cause I know Amy.
I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Oh, okay, all right, January 14th, did you? Okay, thank you.
Or.
When Amy's back,
Yeah,
okay.
you have time.
We
I just-
asked for decision continuation to January 12th, and you agree. We're very close to a final decision. We have some changes we have to make based on our discussion this evening. Would you like to give us a continuance or we could close the public hearing and vote on the decision at the January 11th meeting? Yes, sir.
I'm happy with all the changes that we've discussed.
Yep,
If there's no changes beyond what's been discussed, I'd prefer to close the public hearing and just have a vote in January.
okay.
I think everything's fair.
What?
You're not voting tonight?
No,
Oh, okay.
because I think we want to see all the changes written out.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of things get lost in translation.
Gotcha. So that, my suggestion was gonna be, we just go page by page and confirm everyone's on the same page
Yep,
with what the changes are, so
Yeah.
that when Amy or whoever types them up, like it's clear from the record.
yep. Tina, you feel comfortable with that?
She's on the,
She's on mute, okay.
but I thought it might, just because there's been discussion of the changes, it might just be good to go quickly through like page
If
one.
you want to, we can,
Just
but
so-
I still
yeah.
want to
Well, no, just, yeah, while
get
we're
a
here.
clean copy out.
No, I understand that. I didn't mean one or the other. I just meant while everyone's here to just have a quick run through that. Everyone is on the same page with what the changes are that you discussed.
Fine.
Thank you.
You want it, we can start with your copy, sir.
How about, do you
Go
want
ahead.
me to just,
Let's go page by page.
yeah,
Did you,
I think that'd be wise.
before you close anything, because they may have a question and.
Yeah, that's fine.
So there are no changes on page one. Other than we'll fill in the closing of the public hearing date. But nothing changed. That's just to be filled in.
Agreed.
Okay, no changes on page two. No changes on page three. Page four, paragraph 6 is gonna end at have been met, and then from all the waiver has been requested or granted will get crossed out.
What page is that?
The top of page 4, item 6,
Okay, yep,
Period after that.
yep.
Okay.
got it.
nothing on the next page.
Would it-
Nothing on the next page has changed, but ultimately your vote's gonna have to get reflected in there, so someone will just fill that in after the final vote.
Mhm.
The bottom of page 11, I'm sorry, bottom of page 7, paragraph 11. It's the only change is that it's gonna say parcels 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Instead of parcel 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
Okay. Nothing on page 8, the next page. Wait, did I miss
If
it?
I was just gonna ask, did you want to add the word for before parcel 1 and 2? I didn't know if that was intended. So just the way it reads, to access 160 Maple Street, including parcel 1 and 2.
I think it, I mean, it's up to you. I think it's fine the way it is, but, because you're saying to access one, like to access
As,
parcel 1.
as,
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
and we want to keep except for
You're
emergency.
keeping, yeah, so not, it's not changing. The only thing that's changing is if parcels should be plural, it should be 1 and 2 or not.
And then we were adding except for emergency
The
access.
version I have says it. Does yours not say it?
The first one did, and then the second one got taken out.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it should, the one I have says except for emergency access, so that will be there.
yep,
Okay.
that's on my copy as well.
So that's why we do this, to make sure we're all,
Yes.
on page 8, I didn't have any notes.
How do you know?
Okay,
I did,
page 8.
well, I guess it's kind of page 8 to 9. I think it was just paragraph 21 was. the
Yeah,
start.
yes, I'm sorry. So paragraph 21 is gonna be changed so that it starts with as reference in next grid's December 28, 23 letter to the board. And then it will read as is through the top of page 22, except now it's gonna end with will be responding, period. So to all situations will be struck.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you go down to paragraph 26. The may is gonna become a shall. And you wanted to add a sentence that said, that specifically any new or changed use of parcel 2 shall require a new application and new public hearing. So that'll get added.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the only thing I was gonna suggest, and this is, we already discussed it, but we didn't talk about putting it in, is a new paragraph 29 that just says that the applicant shall update the December 28, 2023 letter to reflect that the payment trigger for each of lot 1 and lot 3 shall be, and Tim, what did we ended up saying it would be.
Yeah, so we would condition it on, the commencement of site work,
Okay, upon commencement of site work instead of the issuance of a building.
first.
So we can do two things on that as well. You can put it here, and you can also change your letter.
Well, they're going to, the condition is that they change the letter, so
Yeah.
it just locks it up. So
Yeah.
commencement of site work instead of the building.
That's the only thing I had additional on page 9. I was just going back to the bond language of, paragraph 22.
Okay, so how did you want to leave that?
So the,
Do you want me to read what my copy says, because it may be more recent?
sure,
As agreed to by the applicant shall name the town of Bellingham to be listed as an additional name insured as their interest may appear, to be clear, on decommissioning bond issued to the town of Franklin.
And did you want to add or provide a landscape on or no?
no, we're good with
We're good with
that.
that?
Franklin.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank
So
you.
those are all the changes I had.
That's all that I have.
I just want to make sure the record was clear as to what the changes were that are going to be made.
Thank you very much.
So basically, you're just gonna come back on the 11th and just vote the final version, and then you're.
Once we all clean copies. And that's one reason why I thought this would come down to a last minute decision. That's why we extended it to the 12th. So what I entertain now is a motion to, close the public hearing. Have a second,
Second, Nick.
made by Brian. Want to call for the vote?
Brian, aye.
Bill, aye.
Bill, aye.
Nick, I.
Dennis?
That's fine.
That motion passes unanimously. We only had one agenda item this evening. In advance, let me apologize for the agenda on the 11th. It's very, very robust. You were here one night. I think we left here at like 12:05 in the morning. We had a gentleman on Maple Street who wanted to put a warehouse in, who sat here from 7 until 12:05 in the morning. I know this is very urgent to you, but I made a commitment to him, even the first person on the agenda on the 11th. We'll try to get you set,
Thank you.
all right?
Parcel 3 is on the 11th too, right? Or no?
I don't think so.
It's not, okay.
It might be, but we're gonna continue it until Concom is done.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
all right.
It is on the agenda, but you'll actually continue it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Our plan's not to come back until we finish.
Concom.
Finish.
that's fine.
Do
Public
you
meeting is
antici-
closed.
do you-
What?
I was gonna ask, do you anticipate a month that would be, you wanna come back, or is that too early to tell?
They still
Let
have
us know on the
they still have
11th.
to do.
yeah,
Like talk to Amy before then.
yeah, we just gotta find out when Concom's gonna be done. They're still doing peer review and.
It's gonna be a month.
It's gonna be a while.
Okay, that's.
In advance, I want to thank you for working with us in this process. It's been a learning experience for everyone involved, the town, the board, the applicants. And I want to thank you for working.
Thank you.
I'd like to call for motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have some bylaws to some.
Yeah, that's,
We do that.
we get that was left over in the last meeting,
It's not a
so I don't think we have to make a motion. All in favor of adjournment?
Right.
Bill, aye?
Bill, aye.
Nick, I.
Rob?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there? Thank you.
Warehouse on,